What is the definition of success? I asked 50 people, and here are the results. Everybody likes a bit of structure in their lives, so we're going to break this video up into 5 different sections. The first section is what are we looking to achieve here in defining success. The second section is who did we sample these answers from. The third section are the actual answers themselves and some reactions from them. The fourth section is some interesting research that I found on the interweb. And the fifth section is us trying to come up with our own definition for success based off the plethora of answers that we have already gotten. For those of you that are new here, welcome to the channel. My name is Darragh, and here we look at ways young people can live happier, richer, and more productive lives. So if you do want to hop in on the conversation, do yourself a favor, hit the subscribe button below, and without further ado, let's get into the content. So why are we doing this? Well, for me, I suppose it's a bit of a selfish reason. I am making the video after all, but I am just after selling my second business, and I am in a bit of a pickle as to what I want to do next, a bit of a crossroads, if you will. And I feel like at this point, it's important that I take a bit of time to try and understand what success means to me. And I guess at this point, defining success for me might help give me that clarity as to where I really do want to go next. And hopefully you too, you might already be on the path to your own version of success, and that's great. But if you're not, this also might help you identify a little bit better as to where you might want to get to in the future. I'm a big believer that you can accomplish more by bringing people together and understanding people's ideas, and that's why we are asking 50 people as opposed to me trying to conjure up some gobbledygook to preach to you. 50 is a good number because it's enough that there's not going to be too many outliers that will, skew the data, and it's not too much that, it would take me a year to make the video. So section 2, who are we actually sampling this from? Well, we have 3 sections. Group 1 are people that I know and interact with every single day. Group 2 are people who I would consider to be very successful, and I reached out to them asking them for an answer. And group 3 are people who society would define as mega successful, uber successful. Now, Leonardo DiCaprio wouldn't answer his phone, so I'm just after getting those answers from them online because, Now I get that it's kind of a contradiction that I'm after grouping these people in terms of success or society's version of success. The reason I'm doing this is because the answers given by the various groups vary quite a lot, and there's a lot of similar themes within these answers that I'm really looking forward to delving in with you. Okay, let's get straight into it. Group 1. So I'm going to pick a selection of answers here that I think you might find interesting. Sean said success for him is hard work paying dividends. My mum said that success is being happy in your own skin at any particular point in time, acknowledging your achievements whilst loving and being loved by friends and family. Wow, thanks Mum. David said success is having to work as few hours with high income. We'll come back to that. Phil said, to me, success is a measure of how your life is in reality against how you imagined it would be. Now, this is a really interesting one because is he talking about success or is he talking about happiness here? I know both weigh up against the other and they could be the same thing depending on what success is to you. But Mo Gaudat, if you haven't heard of him, look him up. He is looking to define happiness, and he actually talks about happiness as reality versus expectation, and one minus the other is equal to your happiness. Now, I don't know is that strictly true for everybody, but that does lead to what Phil said here, which is very interesting. Jack said success is achieving contentment with your current situation and achieving your goals. So there's a lot to be said for that, actually, being content in every situation, but being on a path to getting where you want to be. Now, quote that does ring a bell here is, he who is happy with little is happy with nothing. And that is all about what Jack says here really in a nutshell, which is being content in your current situation, regardless of the situation. Kleena said, be happy in your job and in your life, yet still wanting to grow and progress as a professional and a person. Very good. Shane says, just being happy with life. So that was some tasters from group 1. And I think there were a few common themes that we will delve a little bit into in the end. And you may see some correlations. Let's go on to group 2, who are the people that I reached out to who are what I would consider to be very successful. Now, they all asked to remain anonymous, which is absolutely fine, but I'm going to pick 3 here that I really enjoyed. The first one is, success is a matter of hanging on when others leave go, as this road is dotted or littered with many tempting parking spaces. I like that analogy. The next one is, success is when you work out how to walk beautifully on the earth. I love that. The final one is, success is never giving up. Perseverance and persistence at achieving a goal, personal or professional, will inevitably prove successful. I think there's a very common theme through those 3, particularly about resilience and persistence. But nonetheless, before we summarize and delve a bit deeper, let's go on to the 3rd group, who are the uber successful people. And because this information is online, I can reveal exactly who it is. So Richard Branson said, in my opinion, true success is measured by how happy you are. Mark Cuban said, to me, the definition of success is waking up in the morning with a smile on your face, knowing that it's going to be a great day. A bit cringy, but he can have his own opinion. Leonardo DiCaprio said, what matters is whether or not you fulfill the idea of leading an interesting life, whether you've contributed in some way to the world around you. It's very fitting given what he's doing with saving the planet and all that jazz. Denzel Washington, who has many incredible, successful related videos on YouTube, says, success, I don't know what that word means. I'm happy, but success, that goes back to what in somebody's eyes success means. For me, success is inner peace. That's a good day for me. Very simple, and one that I think would resonate a lot. Do check out his speeches. He hits home a lot with what is success and how to get to where you want to be. It's very, very good. Michael J. Fox from Back to the Future has a very interesting one here that relates to what Phil said earlier. He says, success? Well, I can define success as my happiness that is growing in direct proportion to my acceptance and in inverse proportion to my expectations. That's the key for me. If I can accept the truth of this is what I'm facing, not what I can expect, but what I am experiencing now, then I have all this freedom to do other things. Matthew McConaughey says, how do I define success? For me, it's a measurement of 5 things: fatherhood, being a good husband, health, career, friendships. These are important to me in my life, so I try and measure these 5 things every day. Check in with them, see whether or not I am in debt or credit to each section. Now, he's brilliant. Matthew McConaughey, great book, Green Lights, would highly recommend it. This relates very much back to a previous video that we did, I'll put it up here, about our 7 pillars, similar to what Matthew talks about here with his 5 measurements. Next up, we have Larry Page, the founder of Google. He says, success. I don't know about success, but something that comes to mind is that I think it is often easier to progress on mega ambitious dreams, since nobody else is crazy enough to do it. You have little competition. In fact, there are so few people this crazy that I feel I know them all by first name. The Rock, it's John Cena, sorry. He says success isn't overnight. It's when every day you get a little bit better than the day before. It all adds up. And finally, we are going to quote Warren Buffett and his definition of success, and my personal favorite. He says, basically, when you get to my age, you really measure your success in life by how many people you want to have love you versus ones that actually do love you. I know people who have a lot of money and they get testimonial dinners and they get hospital wings named after them. But the truth is that nobody in the world actually loves them. If you get to my age in life and nobody thinks well of you, I don't care how big your bank account is, your life is a disaster. Great note to end on there. Okay, now that we've gotten all these definitions of success, let's bring them all together and come up with some key takeaways. I think for me there were 5 key points to be taken from those 3 groups and from all of those answers and from the other ones. The first one is income, right? And particularly group 1, they primarily focused on, how well they're doing financially as one of the aspects that define whether they are successful or not. And that isn't surprising. We didn't see it as much in the latter groups, but I think we can all agree that income level and your financial security does impact how successful or happy you are up until a certain point, and then it kind of plateaus. So the graph almost kind of goes like this when you get to a certain level, which is to be expected. So income was the first one. The second main point was about progression and improving on things in your day-to-day life. And again, this isn't really surprising because I think we all feel a need to get better and better and better at things. And the point at which we stop learning and the point at which we stop progressing in some sense is almost the point where we start to stagnate, you know, like dirty water in a bucket somewhere in your back garden. But the idea behind it is that we all want to be flowing like a river, regardless of how well off we are, about how happy we are. I think that does give even me a big sense of, you know, success when you are getting better at things. So that is something that I definitely do relate to. The third thing is happiness. Now, we could talk all day about happiness here, but I suppose what this leads to is, what is happiness in relation to success, right? Is happiness success to you? And if that is true, then we need to delve a little bit deeper into what happiness really is. Now, a few people talked about happiness being the difference between your expectation versus reality, and a few of the definitions came up there, but I think it's something that you really do need to maybe delve a little bit deeper into if, you know, success is happiness, because everybody wants to be happy at the end of the day. So, you know, it's not a cop-out, but I would like to delve a little bit deeper into what makes you happy thereafter. Now, the fourth point is something that I found very interesting, and Warren Buffett really hit on it. It was about the people around you, and not just the people, say, who follow you on Instagram, but the people who truly love you and that would do anything for you at the end of the day. And I think this is really interesting because in today's world we talk a lot about, you know, amassing a massive following and loads of people who, you know, are part of your audience, and that's great. But even someone like Warren Buffett, who has a cult following and has a lot more money in his bank account than all of us ever will, he still talks about the key 4 or 5 people in your life that really do love you and that are going to be there for you up until the very end. And that providing more riches than any amount of money or any amount of followings. So I think that's a really key lesson for us to learn from there. And the final point here is about resilience and perseverance. And this was primarily talked about in group 2, the people who have just achieved what they have defined as success. And this is an interesting one because these are people who are fresh off, I suppose, persevering through what might have been a difficult time to get to the other side and to get to where they want to be, and are now reaping the rewards. And I suppose if it were easy, everybody would do it. And persevering through those difficult times does allow you to, you know, reap the rewards at the very end. Naval Ravikant talks a lot about making hard decisions will give you an easy life, and making easy decisions will give you a hard life. And I think that relates a lot to, you know, achieving success, and whatever your definition of success is. The easier it comes, the easier it will go. And the harder you work for it, the sweeter it will be at the very end. And I think that's something that we should all consider when we're looking at our definition for success, that it shouldn't come extremely easy, because if it does, then you won't cherish it as much as you would if you worked extremely hard for it. Now, let's bring all these together. Now, what I've learned from putting all these definitions together is that what success means to other people is completely and utterly irrelevant to you. And that is because if you chase what other people define as successful, you won't get there, because you will give up, or there will be something that will happen along the way that will inhibit you from getting to where you want to be. Whereas if you can understand and define your own version of success, that will allow you to persevere and to be resilient through what are the tough times, because you know you're on the path to where you want to be. Now, what is success for me? Like, using a combination of the definitions that we heard earlier and the inputs from other people, my definition of success has definitely changed. And for me, I think it's ultimately about being happy, but as we alluded to earlier, I think we need to go a little bit deeper into that, because everybody needs to be happy. So my version of success is having the awareness that you are progressively realizing your own worthy ideal, but not to be defined by the eventual outcome. I hope that was as useful for you as it was for me. We'll see you in the next one. Slán.